Hello students, today we will be studying some basic concepts of chemistry and today's topics are significant figures, rules for rounding of numbers, dimensional analysis, law of conservation of mass and law of constant or definite proportion. Now let us see what are significant figures. Significant figures are meaningful digits which are known with certainty. They are indicated by writing the certain digits and the last uncertain digit. For example, in a result 45.8 centimeter, 45 is certain but the last digit 8 is uncertain. Okay, so we will see that all the previous digits are certain, only the last digit is uncertain, and the certain and uncertain digit are together known as significant figures. So here we will see that the last uncertain digit, it will be uncertain up to plus minus 1. Okay, so either 45.8 may be 45.7 or 45.9. So that means there is only plus minus 1 difference of the last digit than the actual digit. So here we will see that certain and uncertain digits are together known as significant figures. Now let us see the rules for determining significant figures, number of significant figures. First rule is all non-zero digits are significant. Example 145. In 145 ml, all the three digits are non-zero. Okay, so that means all the three are significant. So here we are having three significant figures. Okay, 1 2 3. So three significant figures are there. So all non-zero digits are significant, so we have to count them as significant figures. Second rule is zeros preceding the first non-zero digit are not significant. Okay, preceding means before. Okay, so zeros before the non-zero digits are not significant. For example, here we will see that in 0.04281 both the zeros are before the non-zero digits, so they are not to be counted. Okay, so here number of significant figures will be 1 2 3 4. Okay, so it is having 4 significant figures. Zeros between the two non-zero digits are significant. So if zeros are present between the non-zero digits, then they are to be counted. Okay, for example 23.007, here both the zeros are between the non-zero digits, so that means you have to count them. So here number of significant figures is 1 2 3 4 5. So it is having 5 significant figures. Zeros at the end or right hand side of the non-zero digits are not significant. Okay, but if they are along with decimal point, then they are significant. Okay, for example here 0.8300 is there. Now this 0 is before the non-zero digit, so we don't have to count it. But if we are having zeros after non-zero digits along with the decimal point anywhere in a number, okay, so here you can see that in a whole number there is a decimal point. Okay, so that means if a decimal point is there and we are having zeros at the end, then you have to count them. So here we will see that 1 2 3 4. So we are having 4 significant figures. Counting numbers of objects have infinite significant figures. Okay, because when we are writing number of objects, they are always exact numbers. Okay, if I say 25 books, now 25 books can be written as 25.0. okay, it can also be written as 25.2 zeros. So we can put any number of zeros after decimal point. And in our third rule we have studied, fourth rule we have studied, okay, if zeros are on the right hand side and if a decimal point is also there, in a entire number, then you have to count zeros. Okay, so you have to count all the digits, and you can put zeros after decimal point up to any extent. Okay, so that means it is having infinite number of significant figures. Okay, so if 25 is there, and if some student is writing the answer that 2 significant figure, then also it is correct. If some student is writing 3 significant figure, then also it is correct. If some student is writing 4 significant figure, then also it is correct. If some student is writing infinite number of significant figure, that is also correct. Okay, but if some student is writing 1 significant figure, then it is wrong. Okay, because minimum 2 and 5, these two digits have to be counted. Similarly, if it is said 12 apples, okay, so 12 apples means 12, after 12 you can write any number of zeros, so it is also having infinite significant figure. If it is said 3 rupees, okay, so 3 rupees can be written as 3.0, 3.00, 3.000, that means it is having infinite number of significant figures. Let us see an example to understand the significant figures. How many significant figures are present in 0.08700200? Now here we will see that zeros before non-zero digits are not significant. Okay, zeros between the non-zero digits are significant. Zeros on the right hand side are significant, but the condition is that there should be decimal point. So that means the first two zeros will not be counted. After that all the digits will be counted. So how many significant figures are there over here? So here you can see that you are having here you are having 8700200. So how many significant figures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we are having 7 significant figures. Now let us see how to do addition and subtraction of significant figures. So in addition and subtraction, the result must not have more digits to the right of the decimal point than either of the original numbers. Okay, for example, if you are having three numbers 5.022, 7.51 and 41.3, so when you do sum of these three, then your answer will be 53.832. Now here you have to see, okay, in the first number the number of digits after decimal point are 3. Okay, in the second number of digits after decimal point are 2. In the third number, the number of digit after decimal point is 1. So which is the minimum number of digits? So that is 1. Okay, so that means you have to note down the answer up to 1 digit after decimal point. So that is 53.8. So that is our answer. Okay, now how to do multiplication and division of significant figures? So in multiplication and division, the result must not have more significant figure than that of the original number with few significant figure. So here we will see an example, 1.1 into 2.134. Now here number of significant figures is 2. Okay, and here number of significant figures is 4. So minimum number of significant figure is 2. Okay, so that means you have to denote the answer up to 2 significant figure. So our answer will be 2.3. So in addition and subtraction, you have to see minimum number of digits after decimal point. Okay, while in case of multiplication and division, you have to see the minimum number of digit in the entire number. Okay, now next is rules for rounding of the numbers. So what is the first rule for rounding of the numbers? If the rightmost digit to be removed is more than 5, the preceding number is increased by 1. For example, in 1.386, the rightmost digit is 6. Okay, and that we have to remove. Now 6 is more than 5. So in that case, the preceding number means 8. Okay, over here. So in the preceding number we have to add 1. So 1.386 will become 1.39. Okay, so this is the first rule. Okay, whenever the last digit is more than 5, then in that case we have to increase the second last digit by 1. So it will be 1.39. Second rule. If the rightmost digit to be removed is less than 5, for example in 4.334 the rightmost digit is 4, so that means it is less than 5, then in that case the preceding number, that means the second last digit, is not changed. Okay, it is kept unchanged. So 4.334 will become 4.33. Okay, so our answer will be 4.33. And if the rightmost digit to be removed is 5, okay, neither less than 5 nor more than 5, but it is exactly 5, for example in case of 6.35, then in that case we have to see the preceding number, that is second last number, second last digit. If second last digit is odd, then in that case it is increased by 1, it is increased by 1. So in that case 6.35 will become 6.4. So if the last digit is 5, then we are having two rules. The first rule is, if last digit is 5 and if the second last digit is odd number, then we have to increase it by 1, so it will become 6.4. And if the last digit is 5 and second last digit is even number, okay, for example here 2 is there, which is even number, then in that case you have to keep the second last digit as it is. Okay, that means it is not changed, so preceding number is not changed. So here the number will become 6.2. Now next is dimensional analysis. So what is dimensional analysis? So it is a method used to convert units from one system to other. It is also called factor label method or unit factor method or dimensional analysis. Let us see an example to understand dimensional analysis. Calculate the volume of 3.5 liter water in meter cube. Okay. Now here we know that 1000 liter is equal to 1 meter cube. So we have to convert liter into meter cube. So 1000 liter is equal to 1 meter cube. Now if you take 1 meter cube in the denominator of the LHS, so you will get 1000 liter upon 1 meter cube. So on the right hand side nothing will remain, so you will get 1. Okay. Now opposite to this also we can do. Suppose 1000 liter is taken in the denominator of 1 meter cube on the right hand side. So 1 meter cube upon 1000 liter. In that case nothing will remain on the left hand side, so left side will become 1. Okay. So that means both these ratios, 1000 liter upon 1 meter cube and 1 meter cube upon 1000, both are equal to 1. So in the so these two are called unit these two are called unit conversion factors. Okay, so they are called unit conversion factors. So suppose we are having 3.5 liters. Now 3.5 liters can also be written as 3.5 liter multiplied by 1. Okay, so it can be written as 3.5 liter multiplied by 1. Now instead of 1, can we put any one of these two? Okay, because both are equal to 1. Now here we have to see that we have to convert answer into meter cube. So what we will try, okay, this liter should be cancelled. Okay, so in order to cancel this liter, there should be liter in the denominator, then only this numerator liter will be cancelled. So out of these two, which we will use? This we will use. Okay, because here liter is in denominator, so that's why we will multiply 1 meter cube upon 1000 liter over here. Okay, so what will happen? Okay, liter will be cancelled. So in that case we are remaining with 3.5 upon 1000 into meter cube. Okay, so in this way we can convert liter into meter cube. So that is equal to 3.5 into, now instead of 1000 in the denominator, we can write it as a 10 raised to minus 3 in the numerator. So our final answer will be 3.5 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter cube. So in this way, by using unit conversion factor, we can convert one unit into another of the same quantity. Another example is example number 2. A piece of metal is 3 inch. Okay, inch can be represented by small symbolically in also. Okay, so a piece of metal is 3 inch long. What is its length in centimeter? So here we have to first find out the relation between inch and centimeter. 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeter. Now when you take 2.54 centimeter in the denominator, you will get 1 inch upon 2.54 centimeter equal to 1. We can also take 1 inch in the denominator of RHS. Then in that case LHS will become 1. Okay, so 1 is also equal to 2.54 centimeter upon 1 inch. So both these 1 inch upon 2.54 centimeter and 2.54 centimeter upon 1 inch, both are called unit factors. Now here we have having 3 inch in the question. Okay, and we have to convert it into centimeter. So here we can see 3 inch can also be written as 3 inch multiplied by 1. Now we will try that inch should be cancelled. Okay, because we have to convert it into centimeter. Now out of the two, which is the factor in which inch is in denominator? Okay, so this is the factor in which inch is in the denominator. So instead of 1, we can write this unit factor. Okay, so 2.54 centimeter upon 1 inch. So in that case inch will be cancelled and our final answer will be in centimeter. So we are remaining with 3 into 2.54 centimeter, and that the final answer will be 7.62 centimeter. Example number 3. A jug contains 2 liter of milk. Convert it into meter cube. Now what is the relation between centimeter, liter and meter? Now 1000 centimeter cube equal to 1 liter. Okay, and 1 meter equal to 100 centimeter. Now when you take 1 liter in the denominator, you will get 1000 centimeter cube upon 1 liter is equal to 1. So this is one unit factor. Now from this, which unit factor you can obtain? Now if you multiply, if you take cube of both the sides. Okay, if you take cube of both the sides, so on the left side we are having 1 meter, on the right hand side we are having 100 centimeter. If you take cube on both the sides, so this will become 1 meter cube is equal to 10 lakh centimeter cube. And if you take 10 lakh centimeter cube in the denominator, you will get this unit factor 1 meter cube upon 10 lakh centimeter cube is equal to 1. Now we have to convert 2 liter into meter cube. Now 2 liter can be written as 2 liter multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1. Okay, now in order to cancel out liter from 2 liter, we require liter in the denominator. That means here we can use this in the multiplication. So into 1000 centimeter cube upon 1 liter. So liter will be cancelled. Now we don't require answer in centimeter cube, we require answer in meter cube. So in order to cancel out centimeter cube, you will use this ratio. Okay, so into 1 meter cube upon 10,000 centimeter cube. Now here 3 digits will be cancelled. 3 digits will be cancelled from numerator and denominator, and centimeter cube will also be cancelled. So in the numerator we are remaining with 2, and in the denominator we are remaining with 1000. So 2 upon 1000 meter cube. So that can be written as 2 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter cube. So that is our answer. Now example number 4. How many seconds are there in 2 days? Okay, so first of all, 24 hours equal to 1 day, 60 minutes equal to 1 hour, 60 seconds equal to 1 minute. Now when we take 1 day in the denominator, we will get 24 hour upon 1 day is equal to 1. In the same way, if you take 1 hour in the denominator, on the left hand side we will get 60 minutes upon 1 hour equal to 1. And here you will get 60 seconds upon 1 minute equal to 1. Now 2 days can be written as 2 into 1 into 1 into 1. Okay, So it will be equal to 2 into, now when you require, in our question we are having 2 days, okay. Now if we want to cancel out days, there should be day in the denominator, so we will use this instead of 1, okay. Instead of 1 we will use this ratio, so that is into 24 upon 1 day. Now if we want to cut hour, then we require hour in the denominator, so we will use this ratio, that is 60 minute upon 1 hour. And if we want to cut minute from the numerator, then one more unit factor we require, and that is 60 second upon 1 minute. So in that case, day will be cancelled from numerator and denominator, hour will be cancelled, minute will be cancelled. So what are we remaining with? 2 into 24 into 60 into 60 second. So when you multiply these 4 values, our final answer will be 1,72,800 second. Now next is laws of chemical combination. We know that atoms combine to form molecules, and during the formation of molecule, these atoms combine in fixed ratio. That means there are some laws of chemistry which are working after the chemical reactions. The first law is law of conservation of mass. This law was given by Antoine Lavoisier in 1789. And the statement of law of conservation of mass is, mass can neither be created nor be destroyed during chemical reaction. So during chemical reaction, mass remains same. That means if a reactant is converted into product, then the total mass of reactant and total mass of product should be equal, okay. That means reactant should be completely converted into product. An example is given to understand this law. If 1.70 gram of silver nitrate is dissolved in 100 gram of water, okay, so that means solution is prepared in one of the beakers. In another beaker, if 0.585 gram of sodium chloride is dissolved in 100 gram of water, so that means 2 different solutions are prepared, and if these 2 solutions are mixed with each other, then in that case 1.435 gram of silver chloride will be formed and 0.85 gram of sodium nitrate are formed. So here if you see a balanced equation, we are having silver nitrate and it is mixed with sodium chloride in water, okay. So finally we are getting silver chloride and sodium nitrate. Now here, along with silver nitrate and sodium chloride, mass of water will also be added, okay, because we are preparing the solutions in water, and on the right hand side also water will remain, okay. Now here the mass of silver nitrate which was taken was 1.70 gram, okay. So 1.70 gram. Mass of NaCl taken was 0.585 gram. Now silver nitrate is dissolved in 100 gram of water and sodium nitrate is dissolved in 100 gram of water. So total mass of water on the reactant side is 200 gram, okay. Finally we are getting silver chloride, and the mass of silver chloride obtained is 1.435 gram. Mass of sodium nitrate obtained is 0.85 gram, and mass of water will remain same only, okay, after the reaction also, that is 200. Now when you add total mass of reactants, that will come out as 202.285 gram, and if you find the total mass of product, that will come out as 202.285 gram. So here you can see that the mass of reactant and mass of product, total mass of reactants and total mass of products is equal, okay. That means law of conservation of mass is obeyed, okay. So this relationship holds good when reactants are completely converted into products. The law of conservation of mass is satisfied only if the whole reactant is converted into product. Now second law is law of definite proportion, okay, also called law of constant proportion, okay. This law was presented by Proust in 1799, and this law can be stated as a chemical compound always contains the same element combined together in fixed proportion by mass. Okay, so in any compound the elements which are present, they are always combined in the fixed proportion of their mass. That means a chemical compound has a fixed composition of elements, and it does not depend on the method of its preparation or the source from which it has been obtained. Okay, so that means the same compound, if you are preparing from different reactions, then also every time the ratio of elements present in that compound will be same only. Okay, so if you are obtaining water from river water, then also it is H2O. If you are obtaining water from sea water, then also it is H2O. Okay, so if you are obtaining the same compound from different sources, then also the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen is same only, that is 2 gram of hydrogen, okay, and 16 gram of oxygen react to from H2O, that is 18 gram of H2O. In the same way, if you are having NaCl, NaCl can be obtained from sea water, so that is also containing same mass of Na and Cl. So what is the proportion of their masses? Atomic mass of Na is 23. Okay, so in case of NaCl, atomic mass of Na is 23 gram. The atomic mass of Cl is 35.5 gram. So that means the ratio is 23:35.5. Now whether you are obtaining NaCl from seawater or if you are obtaining NaCl from rocks, okay, NaCl can also be obtained from rocks. That's why it is also called rock salt. So if you are obtaining NaCl from rocks, then also the ratio of Na and Cl will be same only, that is 23:35.5. So that means whatever source is there to obtain the same salt or same substance, the ratio of element present in that compound will be having the fixed ratio of their mass. Okay, if we talk about carbon dioxide can be obtained by using any one of these 4 methods. Okay, first is by heating calcium carbonate, second is by heating sodium bicarbonate, third is by burning carbon in oxygen, and fourth is by reacting calcium carbonate with hydrochloric acid. In all the 4 reactions, at the end the product is carbon dioxide. Now from whatever source the sample of carbon dioxide is obtained, it is observed that the ratio of carbon and oxygen is always fixed. Okay, for example, here 1 carbon is there, and atomic mass of carbon is 12 gram, and 2 oxygen are there. So for 1 oxygen the mass is 16 gram, so 2 oxygen are there, so total mass of 2 oxygen is 32 gram. So ratio of carbon and oxygen is 12:32. Okay, so 12:32. And if you are finding a simple ratio, for example 4 3s are 12 and 4 8s are 32, so simplest ratio of their atomic masses is 3:8. So this ratio of carbon and oxygen will be fixed. So that means the proportion of the elements present in a particular compound is always constant, or we can say definite. Okay.